Good evening, everyone, and welcome to it's a Wednesday, so that means Unfiltered Conversations time. And I'm really, really excited tonight because we have something that's been about a year plus in the making. If you remember last year, Mike Block and I sat down to talk a little bit about Cedar Mountain. And when I say a little bit, we went on for an hour about Cedar Mountain, so it was good stuff. But we went on so much we didn't get to the battle. There's a battle. There is. We had some awesome coverage with that, and Mike took a lot of time to help us delve in and kind of understand what's happening before we get to the battlefield proper, if you will. But without any further ado, I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. If you're watching live, comments are available. I've got a new screen over here, so I fixed the problem of not being able to see what you guys are saying on Facebook. But if you're watching live, thank you. And if you want to catch this later, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, and we are also on History Fix, which I've got a QR code we'll throw up. You can get all that cool stuff today and get a discount even on your History Fix, if you will. But Mike, thank you again for taking the time to do Cedar Mountain Redo with us.
Tyler, you are so welcome. Like you said, this has been a year in the making. That's probably the longest campaign in the Civil War now.
Yes, it is. I think it's got Petersburg beat.
We have surpassed Petersburg.
Yep. And look, we got Anthony helping out today too, because I need Anthony's moral support there with his fine glass of water. Mike and I are going a little different tonight. I'm having an A. Smith Bowman port barrel finish, and Mike, what are you having?
I've got some Cotswolds single malt whiskey from the north of England. Not quite Scotland, but the north of England.
Not quite Scotland. I'm sure our friend Darren will appreciate that.
Yeah.
But let's I guess for maybe those that haven't watched before or may have missed the episode you and I did last year, do you think maybe a recap like you would see on these awesome Netflix shows? Like, do you think maybe that's what's in order for us to start?
Sure, I think we can do that.
Awesome.
The Cedar Mountain campaign is, in my mind, the last series of maneuvers and fighting associated with the Richmond 1862 campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So we're it's a continuation of the defense of Richmond. A lot of people think it's the first actions of the Second Manassas campaign, but I beg to differ on that.
I do have to stop you for 1 second because Ted Savis said, looking forward to listening to this. If only someone were working on a new Cedar Mountain book, ...
Well, that someone was actually working on that Cedar Mountain book today, as a matter of fact. And you know, the challenge I have is when I wrote it, this new volume, Ted asked for 100,000 words, and I'm at 250,000. So, because I wrote it from all my primary sources back in the day, you know, so I'm working on editing it down right now. So yes, It is there.
I'm excited.
So thank you, Ted, for poking me. I appreciate that. So today, really, the 7 days campaign begins outside of Richmond. John Pope is named head of the new Army of Virginia, bringing in three military departments into one, consolidating those B team players, John Fremont, Irwin McDowell, and Nathaniel Banks, under John Pope, who can also some will consider a B team player. His mission is to go down and attack Richmond from the west or the north. Also defending Washington, keeping the supply line from Aquia Harbor all the way out to the Shenandoah covered. So he's got a number of tasks. Oh, and while you're at it, please take Charlottesville as well. He's got a couple tasks laid out before him. By the time he even gets back east, the 7 days campaign is over. So that's no longer the option, and the option now becomes to put pressure on the Confederate Army to help McClellan either re-engage, which doesn't happen, of course, or leave Harrison's Landing. So Pope spends about a month getting himself organized, most of the time in D.C., because Abraham Lincoln knows him and trusts his opinions, which is surprising to some. And then he'll finally leave for Warrenton and the points where his army's gathered in late July. In the meantime, Robert E. Lee has realized that there's 42,000 guys sitting up in Northern Virginia that's looking to head south, and he dispatches Stonewall Jackson in the middle of July to first Louisa Courthouse and then to Gordonsville to protect that critical railroad junction there. Jackson gets out there, realizes he doesn't have enough men to really engage in Pope. And at that point, Robert E. Lee sends him a third division. He's got two, Richard Ewell and Charles Winder, Jackson's old division. Then he sends Major General A.P. Hill's division, his light division, 7 brigades strong, to support Jackson. He has to send Hill because as things are falling apart between the relationship between Hill and Longstreet, it's gotten to the point where they're exchanging notes preparing for a duel.
Okay.
The last thing Robert E. Lee needs is A.P. Hill and James Longstreet killing each other on a Tuesday morning.
A.P. Hill doesn't like a lot of people, does he?
A.P. Hill is cantankerous, opinionated. And so he doesn't get along with a lot of people. By the time
it's going to show later on in the war too. It's not just limited to Longstreet.
It's going to show on the 8th of August.
Okay.
So Hill comes out. Lee says, trust this guy, talk to this guy. That's something Stonewall Jackson doesn't do. He doesn't talk to his subordinates, and it's going to become a problem. So they sit around, moving slowly towards each other. The Federal cavalry under George Bayard and eventually John Buford do a great job scouting and patrolling and just putting pressure on Jackson, something you don't hear about the Federal cavalry until really June of '63 at Brandy Station.
Right.
On August 7th, Pope finally makes his move and starts heading south. He's already got a brigade in Culpeper, so he's going to reinforce that brigade and continue south with his now 3 corps under Nathaniel Banks with 9,000 men, Franz Sigel and Irwin McDowell. Those are all moving south in different directions. He's got a great plan. His plan is to maneuver Jackson out of Gordonsville and possibly take Charlottesville. He's got a good plan. Unfortunately, Stonewall Jackson decides to march first. So on the evening of August 7th, Jackson orders his forces to move forward. The order as written is to send Richard Ewell, who is camped, his division is camped west of town, into Orange, and then turn north on what is today Route 15 to go to Cedar to Culpeper. A.P. Hill is supposed to follow him, and Charles Winder is supposed to trail the Army of Virginia as they move north. Jackson afterwards, he sends this message out, says, you know what? Maybe it'd be better if Richard Ewell just crossed the river where he is and met us on the road somewhere. He neglects to tell A.P. Hill and Charles Winder the change in marching order. And so on the morning of August 8th, A.P. Hill's got his men lined up in the town of Orange waiting for Ewell to pass, and he sees men passing. It's his first march with Jackson's army. He doesn't recognize everybody at first, and about 2/3 of the way through of Winder's march, he realizes it's Winder and not Ewell, and that's when Jackson shows up. Jackson and Hill exchange, I would say, subdued, heated words. They were very professional, but they were really both pissed at each other. And Jackson went storming off, and Hill went storming off. And Jackson would later write, at the end of the day, because of this kerfluffle and the heat, which the temperatures were in the 90s, like it was last week here in Virginia, that he's going to write Robert E. Lee, I'm not making much progress. And he didn't. It was probably the worst day in Stonewall Jackson's marching career.
Even worse than 7 days. Anything in 7 days, yeah.
Well, he didn't march in the 7 days. At least he's marching here. Ewell marches about 10 or 12 miles. They are hung up by George Bayard's cavalry as they withdraw. It's kind of a skirmishing, fighting withdrawal all the way back towards Culpeper. Charles Winder gets in front of A.P. Hill and only makes it just across the Rapidan River, and Hill doesn't even leave the town of Orange. August 8th has John Pope realizing that things are coming to a head, and he has Samuel Crawford's brigade move out of town. They've been in Culpeper to a position on a piece of high ground above what is today Mitchell Station Road. He orders the rest of Banks's corps, which is on today's 522 outside of Woodville, to come into Culpeper and head point south. And Franz Sigel's corps is supposed to follow them down the Sperryville Road. Sigel, in his infinite wisdom, sends a note to Pope saying, "What road do you want me to take again?" There's only one road to take. And so Sigel gets a very firmly worded message from Pope saying, "To Sperryville Turnpike, please. Thank you very much." The third character in this federal group is the division of James Ricketts. Ricketts has marched into town, and he sets up on the ground south of Culpeper in an area near Colvin's Tavern. And as a sidebar here, for a long time I couldn't understand why Ricketts didn't play in this battle. But one of the interesting things is John Buford's at Madison Courthouse on the 8th and 9th of August, and he gets forced out by the threat of Confederate infantry and Confederate cavalry. That road now from Madison to Culpeper is wide open if Jackson had chosen to use it. James Ricketts needed to stay there to block that road. Nobody knew where the Confederates were on that side. So I give James Ricketts a pass now.
Yeah, it seems like he had a purpose being there to kind of stymie that attempt that Jackson could potentially make that ultimately doesn't. But
exactly. So he was there for good reason.
Okay. Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Hey, Mike. So all told, how many men does Banks have?
I'm sorry, I had to snicker there when you said that. Nathaniel Banks is going to bring just over 9,000 men onto the field. Stonewall Jackson, by the time when it's all said and done, is going to bring up probably just about 20,000. How do you think that's going to work out for Nathaniel Banks?
Not good.
Not good. And Banks is going to be the aggressor in this fight as well. So the morning of August 9th, we have Crawford sitting on a hill along Mitchell Station Road. Bayard's cavalry is along what's going to be known as the Crittenden Farm Lane. He's got three regiments there acting really as skirmishers and as a tripwire so the Federal infantry can get down. Banks is marching through town, heading south. It's about a 6-mile walk from the town of Culpeper to the battlefield itself, and temperatures again are in the 90s in the late morning. So soldiers are literally dying getting to the battlefield from sunstroke. Stonewall Jackson starts his day with some cavalry skirmishing with Bayard's guys, Beverly Robertson's men, followed by the lead infantry, which is going to be Jubal Early. Jubal Early's men are going to lead the way onto the field, and they're going to be sitting there for most of the morning as the cavalry spar back and forth. It's going to be about 1 o'clock in the afternoon when Jackson gives Early his orders to go and clear that cavalry off of the field so we can advance onto it. Behind Jubal Early is the brigade of Isaac Tremble, and trailing him is Charles Ronald with the Stonewall Brigade. That's Charles Winder's division. They are now in front. Or I'm sorry, that's Richard Ewell's division with Trimble and Early and eventually Charles Forno.
Also to note, this is a two-legged Ewell going into this.
This is a two-legged Ewell, exactly. He's doing real good. Yeah. And Isaac Trimble is not saying we got to take this hill yet. So
you are still tight, right? Like they're good. They're not beefing yet.
They are, and it's Trimble moves up onto Trimble and Forno move up onto Cedar Mountain as the afternoon progresses, along with a 19-year-old Joseph Latimer who's in charge of Ewell's artillery. He brings 6 guns up there. And when I give tours of the battlefield, I give lectures about this. The question I ask everybody is to think and reflect for a minute what you were doing at age 19. Were you in charge of a division of artillery in an army?
Not even close.
Not even close. None of us were not even close. No. And that's what Joe Latimer's doing. And he's going to haul some guns up on the side of the hill with the assistance of one company, the company at this time, of the 35th Virginia Battalion, which is going to be eventually known as White's Cavalry or the White's Comanches. But he's only got a company at Cedar Mountain.
Not much,
but he's acting as Ewell's escort. So they're helping those guys moving in place. So as Latimer's moving up onto the hill, and Forno and Trimble are moving up on the hill, that is going to become the best artillery position the Confederates have in the Eastern Theater during the war. 150 feet up above the plain, 2 brigades of infantry protecting you. Nobody's going to touch them.
No.
Hey, Mike, what time are we at?
So this is all taking place between noon and about 3 o'clock when all this is happening. The guys are still showing up on the field. As Early's moving on the field and clearing out Bayard's men, Banks's army, what's left of it is showing up on the field. It's going to be the division of Christopher Auger with Henry Prince and John White Gary and George Sears Green. Green
Okay.
is just like Green being the oldest guy on the battlefield at Gettysburg. He's the oldest guy on the field here. He has 2 full regiments with him, a DC regiment. The first DC, there's one you never hear of.
No, that's the first time I've ever heard of them. No kidding.
And a New York regiment. Behind Auger's men is the remainder of Alpheus Williams's guys. Crawford's already on the field. It's the brigade of George Gordon.
Not George Gordon Meade. George Gordon.
Not George Gordon Meade, but George H. Gordon, 2nd Massachusetts. Originally, and becomes the brigade commander there.
Cool.
So they're showing up in the field. Banks also brings with him 6 batteries of artillery that line up out in the open, and they're going to begin to engage.
6 batteries?
6 batteries.
That's impressive, actually.
It is, and they do yeoman service. They do a great job throughout the day.
Cool.
Probably Richard Knapp's. Richard Knapp's? No.
Yeah, Knapp's battery.
Knapp's. I can't remember if Richard's first name. Knapp's battery is going to be kind of front and center through most of the fight. Jacob Romer's New York Light and Freeman McGilvery is going to have his 6 Maine out there, all play an interesting role. Jacob Romer brings onto this field with him his 12-year-old son.
The heck?
Yeah, he's been with Dad throughout the campaign, and as the day dawns and Jacob realizes what's going to happen, he gives him a $10 gold piece. He's 12 years old. He gives him a $10 gold piece and says, "Go back towards town. If something happens to me, use this gold piece to go home." He's 12 years old. Go from Virginia to Brooklyn, New York.
Holy shit! That's yeah.
So as the fight progresses, one of Romer's lieutenants comes and taps him on the soldier and says, "Hey, boss, your son's back there." The son came back up and got involved in part of the fighting. He was right behind Romer's battery during the fight. And Dad said, "What the heck you doing here?" He says, "Well, it's just as safe here as it is back there." And according to Jacob's account, we both prayed, and I went back and fought. Jacob survived. He stayed with him throughout the war. He was in Vicksburg. He was at Petersburg. He marched in the May parade in Washington.
Why does he not have a book?
I don't know. He didn't write a book. His dad did.
His dad did, but he didn't.
Yeah, Jacob.
Damn, that's an interesting story. That's so visceral too, with the human connection of a battle. I mean, that's awesome.
And that's what I love about telling stories about Cedar Mountain Area Battlefield. Who cares where the blue lines and the red lines are moving about?
Yeah, no, I get it.
I talk about Lewis Romer. I'll talk about William Warren a little later on. Charles Ronald. You never hear Charles Ronald. He's in charge of the Stonewall Brigade. He's sitting in reserve right now, and he's going to be ordered forward, and he's literally going to get lost in the swamp. And we'll show you that image of that ground where he's moving over later. So the Federals show up. They're getting in position on the high ground. Banks has verbal orders. The important word here is verbal orders from John Pope saying, get into position that you set up yesterday where he is, send out your skirmishers, but don't engage. Well, the verbal orders are translated by a man by the name of Henry Palouse to Banks saying, get into the position where you were sent to, send out your skirmishers, and if they become engaged, you can engage.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. And so Banks, you got to go into Banks' psyche a little bit. His nickname's Commissary Banks. Why? Because Jackson ran him ragged out in the valley.
Yes, he did.
Throughout the month of July, John Pope is busting on Nathaniel Banks. Why aren't you getting more aggressive with your scouts? How come you're not doing this? You're supposed to be sending me updates twice a day. You're not doing this. All the time, Pope is just giving Banks grief.
Now, is Pope doing this justifiably, or is Banks seriously just outmatched with Jackson? Like, is this something that Pope is just coming in kind of like, he's called an ass. He's referred to as Aldung. Like, people don't like Pope. Is he being characteristic Pope here, or is this actually
he's being characteristic Pope? Okay. He's arrogant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very arrogant. A lot of the pre-war, he's pre-war Army. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those veterans, those soldiers who are fighting today, didn't like him then, don't like him now. But Lincoln brought him west for a couple of reasons. One, he had success in the West, just like McClellan had some success.
We haven't seen the backs of our enemies. Yeah, I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
He's a Republican, which is important.
That's huge. That's huge.
And Lincoln wants to change the way the war is fought.
Hmm.
So
political move, but it's necessary.
It is a political move. He's hoping that there'll be some success. Pope also has a chip on his shoulder because McClellan's supposed to be joining him, and he messages a number of times as everything's supposed to be coming together before and after the campaign. Hey, when we get together, who's in charge? And that is never determined. Right. Fortunately for everybody in the North, that is never going to be determined. So Banks has got this chip on his shoulder, and then as he's marching down, he's with Pope's chief of cavalry, a guy named General by the name of Brigadier General Benjamin Roberts. Roberts is telling him there can be no backing today. There can be no backing today. And he's hearing all of this, and when he gets into the position, I liken it like my high school baseball coach.
Okay.
I am not the fleetest of runners. Never have been, never will be. But he as he coached, he said, if you think I gave you the steal sign, you take it and you go 100%, and we'll figure that out later. And I think Banks is the same way. He thinks he's got orders to act aggressively if the opportunity presents itself, and he's going to do that. Now, if you're Nathaniel Banks at about 3:00 in the afternoon, as the artillery on both sides have now reached the field and are starting to go back and forth, as he looks across the field from a position you could stand on today, it's in a farmer's field. You look up on Cedar Mountain, there's infantry and artillery up there. There's a huge gap of several hundred yards and an elevation of 150 feet before you get to Early's brigade. And there's a couple batteries out there. He sees movement along the Orange Courthouse, Culpeper Courthouse Road. There's some guns at the Critton and Gate area where the Critton and Farm Lane and the road intersect. And he believes that there's infantry in the woods to, in his mind, the right of the road. And that's Garnett's brigade, and he's there, 200 yards away from everybody else. He sees Jackson in 3 or 4 locations coming up a single road. His men are all lined up, ready to go. So the skirmishers engage. And Banks decides that I'm going to attack. 9,000 against eventually 21 or 20,000.
Hey, Mike, how far away is Ricketts? What's going on with that at that point?
So Ricketts, from where Banks is, Ricketts is about a short mile away, and they observe Banks's men march past them. There's Massachusetts guys talking to the 2nd Massachusetts guys. There's Pennsylvanians and artillerists talking and swapping yarns back and forth as they move forward. Banks's men are sitting down. They don't have their tents up, but they're sitting down in a camp-like situation, waiting for something to happen. It's 1862. If a general takes the initiative and attacks or does something, leaves his position, and he screws up, he's done.
Yeah.
James Ricketts is not going to make that decision to take the initiative unless he gets an order from his boss, Irwin McDowell, or his boss, John Pope. So Ricketts doesn't move throughout the afternoon until late when Pope arrives about 6:30 in the evening. That's when Ricketts finally gets up off their feet and moves forward to another position. They spend the day mostly in the Colvern's Tavern area at that intersection. So in 1864, 1865, if someone ordered an attack like that, everybody would surge forward. But this is 1862. And from this point forward, the battle is now run by the brigadiers. John Geary, with his 4 Ohio regiments, steps off first, and Henry Prince steps off right beside him, and they are out in a cornfield to the south of the main road. And they move out through that corn. Henry Prince's guys move out in front, going after where Early's position is. Out in front of them are the skirmishers of the 8th and the 12th New York.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Well, the 8th and the 12th U.S. regulars. Forgive me. In the 12th U.S., there's a private by the name of John Yonkers. John Yonkers is going to win a Medal of Honor out there today. He is going to be advancing with those skirmishers, and there's a situation where his commander needs a volunteer to go back and cease the federal fire because it's just getting too close. And he goes back twice to relay those messages. And in 1890, he's going to receive a Medal of Honor. Now, when he submitted that, originally, he submitted his own Medal of Honor nomination, and you can't do that. Right. And it was immediately rejected and said, hey, dude, you have to have someone, an officer who was there and saw you do this to write this up. And he found an officer. So in 1893, he gets his Medal of Honor. Yonkers was also captured at the Wilderness and spent quality time at Anderson prison camp.
That's not a fun place to be.
He testifies against Henry Wirz at Wirz's trial post-war.
Really?
Yeah. So kind of an interesting dude. Another interesting dude in the 12th U.S. that I just doing some more learning on is there was a corporal there by the name of Emerson Liscombe, a name nobody knows. Liscombe is a corporal there, gets wounded. By the time the war is over, he is a lieutenant in the U.S. regulars. He's going to progress after the war, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, colonel, brigadier general. He's going to serve in the West. He's going to serve against the Philippine insurrection, and he's going to die in 1902 before the gates of Tianjin in China during the Boxer Rebellion. So these guys that survive have lives after August 9th. And that's something else I try to highlight, is that these people, we hear about what happened to Stonewall Jackson, but what about a corporal? I've got 2 commandants of West Point. We've got congressmen and state Supreme Court judges out there. I'll talk about 3 interesting Confederates that have an interesting afterlife when we get to that brigade. So these guys have lives afterwards. So Prince and Geary go forward. Prince's men go off in echelon, 2 regiments in front of the others and offset a little bit. The second volley from the rear regiment fires right into the back of the Federals. They break and run. Fortunately, they have a fallback position. They rally and they move forward. Geary's guys move through the corn and out into the open, but they are so close to the Culpeper Road that Garnett's men along the road start firing into their flank, and the Ohio guys get hammered.
Yeah.
And then out in front of them, William Booth Tolliver's men are along the Crittenden farm lane in front of them, and so they start firing them on. So Geary's getting hit on 2 different sides, and those guys remain out there. They fire volleys, step back into the corn for protection, and go out again. Prince's guys are in a firefight with Early's men on the far end of the field. Garnett is firing into the flanks of Crawford and of flanks of Geary, and doesn't see most of Samuel Crawford's men emerge from the woods out into an open wheat field.
Okay.
1 regiment, part of a Confederate battalion, the 1st Virginia Battalion, see them coming. They fire 3 volleys, but because of the slope of the ground down the hill and back up, the first 3 volleys miss completely.
Would this be the slope you would like me to show, folks?
That's the slope I'd love you to show.
All right, well, let's look at it then.
That is the slope that the first of Crawford's 3 regiments, the 5th Connecticut, had to charge up. After they've gone out off of the woods, down a slope and up the slope to a fenced area where Garnett's men were waiting for them. The 5th Connecticut is going to end up being in severe combat along that slope and this fence line. They will lose 7 color bearers here. One of their color bearers becomes the company captain is a man by the name of George Corliss. George Corliss is going to win a Medal of Honor today for carrying the colors about 20 yards or 30 yards before he's shot down with wounds to both legs. He had to wait until the 1890s to get his award, and when it finally showed up at his house, because it was delivered to you by post, he gets it. He opens it up. Cool, I got my Medal of Honor. He looks at it. It's beautiful. It turns it over to read his name in the inscription. They spelled his name wrong.
Of course they did.
So he had to send it back. He took it to Amazon Returns, got a new one. But he finally got his as well.
Yeah.
The 3 regiments, the 5th Connecticut, the 28th New York, and the 46th Pennsylvania, surge across this field. The Connecticut boys are up against that fence. The New York men find a ravine that's undefended. They get past the line that Garnett had. They get on their flank and they sweep around through the woods. And as Garnett's men are firing into Geary's flank, they are attacked and bayoneted from behind.
Ooh.
Because they didn't even see him coming. It was that quick. And so as one man in the Garnett's brigade would put it after the battle, we were mixed up like chickens and ducks.
It's appropriate.
Yeah.
That's a good description.
The 21st commander, a man named Cunningham, who's been sick, pushes down fences to get his men out into the field. At least they can get away. He is shot down. Garnett, every man save one of his brigade or his regimental commanders is wounded or killed. Garnett is wounded. These guys are cut off like it's the Alamo. They are surrounded now. The 3rd Regiment of Crawford's men that advanced, the 46th New York, surges up completely unopposed up another ravine that's adjacent to the New Yorkers. They push up on top of a hill just as Charles Ronald's Stonewall Brigade arrives. Now, Charles Ronald was the reserve brigade for Jackson this day. As he's trying to maneuver to the Confederate left, he gets lost in a swamp. And you've got an image of what that swamp looks like.
Absolutely do. There we are.
Can you imagine maneuvering a brigade through that?
And remind us, what's a brigade like? How many men are in a brigade?
So Ronald had with him about 1,200 men. Moving through these woods, these ditches where these runs are probably didn't have a whole lot of water in them at all, but they're 1 foot to 1.5 foot deep and maybe 1 to 2 feet across. And the whole area back there is lined with these little runs that eventually is going to become Crooked Run and the South Branch of Cedar Run. It's also extremely hilly back there. He probably just got lost back there trying to maneuver his men, but he's going to arrive on top of an open piece of ground just as the 46th Pennsylvania on Crawford's right reaches the top of this hill.
Hey,
and
Mike.
Go ahead.
Hey, Mike. So at this point, real quick, who's got numerically, who has the upper hand right now?
I would say right now it's become a push. Jackson has poorly managed his deployment. He's using a single road. He's had his men all spread out. As this battle begins to develop, A.P. Hill finally arrives, but he's still on the road for the most part.
So in that swamp, in that whole area, they're even.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And I think Jackson's men are surprised at the aggressiveness of Banks. They were caught out of position. Garnett's position has been flanked, and frankly, we go back to Ricketts. If Banks had the support of Ricketts' division and could have pumped through this open area, which was very possible if things played out, the what ifs.
Right.
Stonewall Jackson would have had a very, very bad day.
And where are the not to get you off too far off where you were going, but where is Banks and where's the high command at this point? Are they?
So Banks is on a hill just short of Mitchell Station Road, observing all this.
Here's Banks too.
Yeah, there's Nathaniel. Banks gets high marks from everybody around him because he was out there in the middle of the action. He wasn't hiding behind the lines. He wasn't somewhere maneuvering around. He was observing, and his staff and some of his couriers are killed out there on this hill. Stonewall Jackson, interesting. He was very distracted through most of the day as the armies are gathering. He's at a house west of the battlefield. Sorry, I always get directions wrong. West of the battlefield, hanging out with Richard Ewell, playing with a couple kids at a farm called the Petty Farm. As everyone's kind of gathering, he's just kind of hanging out on the porch. And when he arrives on the battlefield, finally, he's observing from behind Early's position. So he's on the far right of the battlefield as Crawford's attack develops.
So he can't see anything that you're talking about.
No, he can hear it though. He's got one good ear, and he hears it with that ear, and he's gonna say there's some serious work going on over there. Just before that happens, Early's being pressed hard. The 1st Brigade of A.P. Hill's division has arrived, and they are detached from Hill and sent to support Early at the base of Cedar Mountain, giving Early a 2nd Brigade and putting Prince in a position that he's not going to be able to move forward any farther. So Prince is hung up there. The 1st Brigade, the 2nd Brigade arrives on the field as Crawford's men have pushed on through with just 3 regiments, has overrun and surrounded Garnett's brigade, has pushed back the right of Ronald's brigade, the 27th Virginia, and a 3rd regiment coming to support the 10th Virginia is thrown off the field by this surge. This is all happening in the woods.
Which is not an ideal place to fight. Look at fast forward to the wilderness. It's not. I mean, you learn that the woods are not where you want to be moving troops.
It's not. And the casualties that take place in Garnett's and for the most part Crawford's, eventually Branch's and Ronald's brigades, are by infantry fire.
And they're taking that in the woods, not on open ground. Yeah.
Right. It's not. And so the artillery is not playing a role in this part of the field at all. So it's all infantry.
Are they still dueling though, or no? The artillery.
The artillery is pretty much shut down from the infantry advance because the infantry's moved out in front of them for the most part. There's still some long range going back and forth, but they're not actively engaged. This is bayonet. There was a lieutenant. Let me see if I can find him real quick. His name was Thomas Brown, Company K, 21st Virginia. Let me see if I can find his quote in here. Hi, girl. I just got a visitor from one of my dogs.
It's okay. We like dogs here. I got one out here that's itching to get in the room.
Brown, as Garnett, he's in the 21st Virginia. He's been bayoneted and wounded as Garnett's men basically run away, head west. They're going to find him when the Confederates reoccupy this position with more bayonet and gunshot wounds. We're talking atrocities.
Yeah.
Banks's men have had it up to here with everything that's happened to them in the valley and right now, and they're going to take their aggressions out on anybody in any way they can.
And lucky for them, they've got Confederates in front of them, right?
Yep. And Lieutenant Brown is going to die in one of the unfortunate victims. I mean, it's written in the OR that this has happened, which I think is pretty unprecedented. So Garnett's men have broken. Ronald is temporarily set back. Jackson, hearing this crisis on his left, races over, grabs a flag, loses his hat, and it's that moment in the battle that we know about, that Jackson rallies his broken men. He's got the flag in one hand, and he pulls his sword from his sheath. Oh, wait, he doesn't pull his sword from his sheath because it's rusted in his sheath. I would hate to be his orderly on the night of August 9th. What the hell happened here? So he detaches the sword. So he's got the sword and sheath in one hand, the flag in the other, and he's trying to rally these broken men. According to the Confederate accounts, they all rally and have a great day. I don't think it happened that way. What happened is the 2nd Brigade in Hill's line is the brigade of Lawrence O'Brien Branch, North Carolinian, and you got an image of him. 40 years old, one of those guys that has been there, done that, done everything. Top of his class at Princeton, top of his class at UNC, publisher, railroad president, representative, was asked by James Buchanan to be his secretary of a postmaster general. He was mentored by, I think, Edwin Stanton in the pre-war days. So he's a pretty cool guy. He's got 5 North Carolina regiments, and they are lined up ready to go in the woods. Now, according to Stonewall Jackson's men, in their account of this, Jackson had to ride over to Branch and as Branch is giving a political speech to his men about how well they need to fight today and blah, 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 blah. You can just kind of hear it. And Jackson, according to Jackson's men, Jackson says, anytime now, let's move forward. Branch's men, their account says that Jackson came up to him and basically said, I'm going to roll a crap right now. I need you to go forward and save my ass. Pick a story. The bottom line is Branch starts moving forward. Crawford's men have charged through these woods, moved out into the open field by the Crittenden Gate area, has climbed the Crittenden fence, and is advanced into the woods, has moved Tolliver off of the field, and is moving two regiments of Earlys off the field, with just maybe a couple hundred guys. And it's in squads. It's not any kind of formation anymore. And that's when Branch shows up and starts moving forward and starts clearing these woods. James J. Archer? Yes.
Real quick, you mentioned Branch is the 2nd Brigade. Can you just
Correct.
real quick, who was the first?
Thomas.
Thomas.
Thomas went out to Early's flank.
Okay,
The 3rd Brigade is James J. Archer's mixed brigade, Tennesseans, Georgia, and Alabamans. They are trying to get themselves lined up next to Branch, and all of a sudden Branch steps forward, and it's like, what the hell? And they have to step forward. They're about 50 yards behind Branch as they begin moving forward. And it's worse for Dorsey Pender's brigade, who are moving through the woods trying to get on Archer's flank. So the reinforcements are there for Jackson. Branch steps forward before anybody. Archer's going to fill the gap. Dorsey Pender's going to have to go all the way around past those 2 brigades and past Charles Ronald's brigade on the far side, the Stonewall Brigade, before they can even get in action. So they've got to schlep their way through the woods. So Branch starts moving, starts clearing the woods, pushing their way back. Crawford's men are burned out. They've shot their wads. They're trying to retreat back. Most of the casualties, most of the prisoners are in the woods at that point.
Right.
Banks has got a problem now. He's got 3 of his 4 brigades engaged, 3 of his 5 brigades. George Green's brigade, 2 regiment brigade. Their job is to protect the left flank. That's it. They're not going to see any real action until the end of the fight, defending the withdrawal. So he's got 3 of his brigades engaged. His 4th brigade under George Gordon hasn't even left their position yet. And Crawford's men are rolling back. Again, there's no coordination among Banks's men. Banks realizes it's about 6:45 or 7 o'clock now. The fight has only been going on for about 90 minutes. Only 90 minutes.
Only 90.
Only 90. Banks realizes that the tide has turned, and he needs to get his artillery off the field. He needs to get them in position to leave the field. And so he orders his only reserve on the field, which is the 10th Maine Regiment, part of Crawford's brigade, over 400 guys, forward along the road. And so they advance from a tree line out into the open, down into this cut wheat field where everyone else has been fighting. Their commander is a man by the name of George Beale, gets down, working down that slope, and looks out in front of him as towards the setting sun and sees the remains of Garnett, sees Branch, sees Early and Tolliver off to his left, sees Archer off to his right, and says, hell no, and stops his men and starts to turn them around. At that point, one of Banks' staff officers, a man named Henry Palouse, rides over, and Palouse and Beale get into a verbal argument on the field, mounted between the 2 lines. Probably lasts less than a minute, and Beale says, hold on a second, moves his men off on a reverse slope, and they continue the argument back there. Beale loses the argument, and the 10th Maine advances. And they lay down in this wheat field, firing into the sunset at this point against Branch's men. They can see the flames of the guns. They can't see the smoke anymore because of the sunset. And they go after not only Branch, but those portions of the other brigades who are there firing into these guys. And Beale's going to keep his men out there for close to 30 minutes. He sees Geary's men withdrawing off to his left. He can't see Henry Prince. Henry Prince has already left the field. His men have already left.
Gone. He's not even here to stick around. Nope.
And what's interesting about Henry Prince Uh, who has some real bad days during the Civil War? He really does. This is one of them. Christopher Auger, early in the fight, the division commander, is wounded. John Geary is wounded during the fight. Henry Prince is a senior brigade commander now, and they can't find him. They can't find him because he gets captured out in the corn.
Mm.
So he's the senior officer captured on the battlefield, Brigadier General Henry Prince. And he's removed from the field at that point. So Prince's brigade is leaderless. Geary's brigade is leaderless. George Sears Green is going to take over the division as they're falling back into the fading daylight.
Mike, you got a comment over on YouTube, my man. It's Private John O. Castler of the 33rd Virginia Volunteers had some interesting accounts as well of the action. Really cool battle to learn about.
Castler is really good. There are some great accounts that because these guys fought in other bigger battles, more famous battles. They're 4 or 5 pages, or even 3 or 4 paragraphs in their memoirs. People skip right over them. But the accounts are Castler is good. The guy in the 21st. There was a guy in the 21st. Lost his name. He wanted to kill. Or Castler's the guy that wanted to kill Winder because he had him bucked to the back of a artillery caisson for missing a roll call. Essentially,
Castler does that a lot, though.
He does. Yeah, he gets in trouble a lot.
Oh yeah.
The 10th Maine guys try to hang on as Geary's men are falling back. They look over to their right, and here comes George Gordon, late to the game, moving out through a tree line into an area known as the Brushy Field. It's called the Brushy Field because it wasn't in crop for a couple of years. So it's got those little cedars and those brambles and everything else out there. And they move across Ronald's front, nearly at almost at a flank. They had skirmishers out there beforehand from the 3rd Wisconsin that lost 80 men in 2 minutes out there. Retreated back, formed up with the rest of Gordon's brigade. Gordon's brigade has 3 regiments, the 3rd Wisconsin, 27th Indiana, and 2nd Massachusetts. And they advance out to this field late to the game, and they get hammered not only by Ronald's men again, but by Archer's guys. And so they're caught out in the middle of this field as well. The 10th Maine starts to withdraw. Banks still needs more time to get his men off the field, and he calls forth Major Richard Falls with the 1st Battalion, 1st Pennsylvania Cav, 160 guys. Major Falls, charge down that road, break up the Confederate attacks. 160 guys, lots of them. Doesn't matter. He sends his men forward. It's a forlorn hope from the start. They charge down the road. They take fire from all those infantry brigades. They have to break to the right into the wheat field because of the fence that's on the left. And by the time the night is over, I think 61 men will answer the roll call. Eventually, over 100 are going to reform with the battalion, but they get hammered as well. The battle has turned, and Jackson has won. He shouldn't have won. There's no way, if things had played out the way Banks had foreseen it, he would have won. A couple of guys I want to talk about is 3 men in Jackson's army. Don't have images of them for you, but the first one is Frederick Holliday. Frederick Holliday is a lieutenant colonel of 33rd Virginia. He loses his arm out here. James Walker of the 13th Virginia is the colonel out there. Will fight and eventually become the commander of the Stonewall Brigade.
That's right.
James Gavin Field is the quartermaster for A.P. Hill. He's going to lose his leg late in the fight. Those 3 men are going to be Virginia's leadership in the 1877 governor's election, state elections, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general. They're on the field. James Gavin Field is going to become a progressive, and in 1892 be the vice presidential candidate for the Progressive Party in the national elections.
Interesting.
They come in a poor third, but they garnered 22
Electoral.
Thank you.
Got you. Electrical votes sounds so much cooler, though. I mean,
electoral votes. So pretty interesting set of people out there.
Mhm.
I've got a photo in there for you of William Warren.
Yep.
William Warren is a lieutenant in the color company of the 28th New York. And when I'm out on the battlefield, I use him not to bark, but to talk about you have to show up to work tomorrow. Moving across the field, he takes a round in the tip of one of his finger on his right hand, loses the top end of his finger, keeps going. Second round hits him in his left arm. As he would say post-war, I'm still pulling fragments out. Keeps going. The third round hits him in the side of the head, a grazing shot. Blood, because, a headshot, you're going to get a lot of blood no matter how bad it is. Can't see for a while. Continues on in this fight in the woods. Takes a round in the neck. It's a mini ball.
Yeah, it does damage.
Well,
Nothing silly.
It saved his life being a mini ball because it split the windpipe in the carotid artery and lodged against the back of his spine. The man continues. Finally, he takes a round in the leg and goes down. 5 wounds, maybe 25 minutes. He lays out on that field. Confederate soldiers come up to him thinking he's dead. Find out he's alive. Take some pity on him. They fill up his canteen. They put his oilskin on top of him, stake it to the ground so he's got a shade. It's 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees the day after the battle. He's laying out there the day after the battle. He's recovered on August 11th when there's a truce. Set in the Culpeper. He's recovering in Culpeper when Jackson begins his advance, becomes a prisoner of war, gets a one-way trip to Richmond, where he recovers and is exchanged in late October 1862. Discharged from the Army. Is his career over? Hell no. In May of 1863, he rejoins the 28th New York, ostensibly just to muster out with the regiment, because it was one of those 2-year regiments that mustered out between Chancellorsville and Gettysburg. Musters out. Goes back into another New York regiment in the fall of 1863 and gets wounded 2 more times. The man got wounded 7 times during the war. He was a bullet magnet, but he got up and went to work the next day. Those are the kind of people that are running around here at Cedar Mountain. The field has been cleared late in the evening now. Jackson still wants to press. It's a full moon.
Classic Jackson.
Classic Jackson. It's a full moon. So he sends forward his 2 uncommitted brigades under Charlesfield, not James, Charlesfield Brigade of Virginians.
So for all intents and purposes, this is a night assault that is being launched.
10 o'clock at night.
Yep.
10 o'clock at night. So he's got Field moving forward and Leroy Stafford's Louisianans, and Willie Peagram's guns go forward. They follow forward. Willie Pegram, earlier in the day, when things were going south for the Confederates with Crawford's attack, for the first time of 3 in his career, will wrap a Confederate flag around him saying, this ain't going nowhere. It worked the first 2 times.
Yeah.
Down at Hatcher's Run, I think it was, in February 65, it didn't work out too well for him.
No,
but he does it here.
Does it at Fredericksburg, I think, is the second time, right?
Is it okay? I don't remember the second time.
Yeah, I think so. I believe that's Fredericksburg at Prospect Hill.
Prospect Hill? I wouldn't be surprised. That was a bad spot for Jackson's guys there, too. So Pegram moves forward into the darkness. And with Stafford's men, Jackson wants it pressed. And so he starts firing his guns from a rise, a position along the Culpeper Road towards what he believes is the retreating men of Banks. And he does fire at Banks's guys. Unfortunately, James Ricketts in the late evening has moved up to a defensive position. And there's 4 federal batteries sitting there at 10 o'clock at night. And you're pretty easy to spot a battery fire in the middle of the night. And so those 4 batteries, particularly Thompson's Pennsylvanians, light into Pegram skies. And I don't know if that photo ended up making it to you. There's a photo from the Library of Congress taken by Timothy O'Sullivan, and it is of dead horses on this ridge.
I have it, but I can double check real quick.
Yeah, I don't know if it got to you in time or not, but it's in the library. It's in the Library of Congress. It's a spectacular shot of showing dead horses on this slight ridge. You can look at that ridge today. It's adjacent to the road. That photo is the first image in American history of something dead on a battlefield.
Before Antietam, that's right. Yeah.
Or Antietam. Another photo taken in that series of Cedar Mountain has five officers from the 10th Maine after the battle, and they are bookended by 2 dead horses. So those are the first dead photographed on a battlefield. It was done by Timothy O'Sullivan, probably on the 12th of August. Don't have an exact date, but that would be the best day. John Pope arrived on the battlefield late. He almost got himself killed as he and Banks and other senior officers are gathered out there in the darkness. They believed they were behind the lines, and they weren't. And some Confederate cavalry came through, tried to shoot him up. Everyone scattered. Nathaniel Banks, trying to mount a horse, got crushed between 2 horses and is disabled until after the Second Manassas campaign. Phileas Williams, the senior brigadier, left. The only brigadier left is takes over command of the Second Corps. Battle ends at 10:30 at night. Hope issued a series of general orders before the campaign began. The most important one being General Order Number 11, basically saying that if we catch military civilians who haven't taken the oath of allegiance, we're going to hang them or shoot them. In retaliation, the Confederate government issued orders that any officer in Pope's army that's captured is going to be treated like a common criminal. Not a prisoner of war, but a common criminal. There are 49 officers captured at Cedar Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
When they arrive, for the most part, most of them end up in Richmond. A couple end up in Charlottesville. A couple more end up in Staunton, Virginia. They end up in the city jails, basically. They are not in Libby Prison. And they are there for about 3 or 4 weeks. And a couple letters are smuggled out, one by a Lieutenant Whitby from the 3rd Wisconsin that talks about the horrendous conditions and saying that we're going to stick it out. We don't care. They can hang us. They can shoot us. So they were really pumped up about standing up for their cause. The other one was by Henry Prince. And this is buried in the Christopher Auger papers I found. Part of it ends up in the official records talking about the U.S. regulars being sharpshooters and how well, skirmishers, and how well of a job they did. That comes from this letter. This letter is smuggled out. It's like a 7-page letter that he smuggles out in an empty canteen from someone who got exchanged. And he details his capture. He details how his experience getting down to Richmond. And that's never really been published before either. And you can let Ted know. Ted, if you're listening still, that's in the manuscript. So that's coming. August 11th, after the truce that they buried the wounded, Jackson withdraws. He realizes now that he has no more reinforcements come up. Hope has now, Franz Siegel's corps has shown up, and the rest of Irwin McDowell's corps, King's Division, which is going to include the Iron Brigade. Those guys, the guys that are going to fight at Bronner Farm, are on the battlefield. He realizes he can't take them and withdraws back across the Rapidan. That on the 11th of August. 3 days later is when Robert E. Lee starts moving his men from the Richmond area to Orange County and Gordonsville in preparation for the eventual assault. It's going to be Second Manassas campaign. 3,500 casualties in 3 hours. The Federals are going to lose 2,100. What makes that number really interesting is, and you can do anything with numbers,
Mhm.
for amount of casualties to forces engaged, it's well over 21%. That is the third highest in the East. That's the third highest in the Civil War of an army fighting. Only Alusty and Stones River has a higher percentage of soldiers engaged to casualties. So it's number one in the Eastern Theater. The other interesting thing about Cedar Mountain, people don't know about it, is in the 1920s, it was the sixth most monumented battlefield in North America,
Hmm.
behind Gettysburg, Antietam, uh, Chickamauga, Vicksburg, and Shiloh.
So they had a purpose to go back there and monument it for sure.
They did, and there's 5 Union regimental monuments there: the 10th Maine, 3rd Wisconsin, 27th Indiana, 46th New York, and 28th Pennsylvania. So we have five regimental that brought. They said we want to have a monument there, and brought monuments down to that. After the war, in 1902, a participant in the battle and a Culpeper judge by the name of Daniel Grimsley approached Culpeper Board of Supervisors and said, I want to monument the 4 battlefields in Culpeper: Cedar Mountain, Brandy Station, Kelly's Ford, basically, and Morton's Ford. Only Cedar Mountain got done. He got a $1,500 stipend, collected subscription fees from veterans who showed up at the battlefield, and eventually put at least 63 markers on the battlefield, denoting where regiments were, where brigades happened, where significant events happened. One of the significant events we didn't even talk about: Charles Winder gets himself killed. He is not doing his job as division commander. He's helping serve guns, and he took a round in the side and is going to die within a couple hours, not doing his job. But there was a marker showing where he died. A lot of these markers, 2/3 of them are gone. We don't know where they are. But if you think about it, in 1902, when you're putting a granite marker in a field, it's okay because the horses can go around it. Once you get mechanical tractors, it's kind of hard on the engines and the blades. So the farmers dug them up, and we've recovered. There's 21 of them that we know where they are.
Okay. 21 of them. Awesome. Well, Mike, seriously, thank you for coming on and giving us this. I mean, this is great. Like, I know a little bit about Cedar Mountain, but every time I talk to you, I feel like I am able to learn more because you bring these human interest stories to the battle that just make it so alive. And that's, I think, like you said earlier, we love knowing where the blue lines were. We love knowing where the gray lines are. But when you're able to really humanize a battle like that, I think it hits home a little deeper.
That's the takeaway. That's the takeaway.
It's a great takeaway. I have one question to ask you before we close out tonight, because I hear a lot of conflicting things with this. Some will tell you that Cedar Mountain is the opening of the second Manassas campaign, or it is the second Manassas campaign. Do you have anything to weigh in on with that? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.
The Cedar Mountain campaign began during the 7 Days campaign. That's when Pope takes command.
Right.
7 days ends. The defense of Richmond is still ongoing. McClellan is still there until the second week of August. Lee's got to deal with McClellan. The purpose of Pope beginning to move south was to put pressure on Lee from the west or from the north. Robert E. Lee cannot handle fighting a 2-front battle in 1862. Right. And that's the objective. If Pope, again, going down the what if trail, if Pope had been able to execute his maneuvers as he anticipated, he could have maneuvered Jackson out of the Piedmont, taken Gordonsville, threatened or taken Charlottesville, and moved on the Virginia Central, going into Richmond from the back door.
Okay.
That didn't happen. No. Jackson had orders from Lee to strike a blow if possible, punch him in the nose, basically. Stop the initiative that Pope might have had. And so Jackson strikes on August 9th. The battle is fought August 9th. August 10th, they sit there and stare at each other in the heat. August 11th, there's a truce. August 12th, Jackson withdraws back across the Rapidan. August 14th, Lee begins his movement from Richmond. 2 days after, Jackson has returned from the Cedar Mountain battlefield. Longstreet comes up with the rest of Lee's army. Lee takes command. After Cedar Mountain, Jackson never has an independent command again. He's always attached to the hip to Robert E. Lee. And there's some interesting theories out there about what Lee was going to do with Stonewall Jackson, because Stonewall Jackson hadn't had a good late spring or summer.
No, he hadn't.
So I've seen some writings that Lee was actually considering with replacing Jackson. But then how do you replace Stonewall Jackson with the kind of PR he was having right now? Going to be a really tough shot. Hope remains in Culpeper until Lee begins his move. And he realizes the day before Lee starts his campaign that Culpeper is impossible to defend with two rivers and high ground to the north and high ground to the south. You can't defend it. And so Pope moves out. That's really the start of the second Manassas campaign on August 20th, when Longstreet and Jackson and Stuart cross the Rapidan, God bless you, cross the Rapidan, moving towards eventually the plains of Manassas.
So this really could just be the closing of the 7 days, if you will.
It is the closing.
Yeah, it's the closing of the
I firmly believe this is the closing of the 7 days campaign.
No, I mean, you sold me on that pretty hard too. I appreciate the insight on that.
Yep. Okay, one kind of thing, I've got an announcement to make. Hasn't hit the state park website yet, but as most of your fans are aware, that Culpeper has a state park, Culpeper Battlefield State Park. It encompasses Brandy Station and portions of Brandy Station and portions of Cedar Mountain right now. Eventually, Kelly's Ford, Rappahannock Station, winter encampment stuff, a lot coming. But on August 8th and August 9th, the state park is going to be hosting some events there. On August 8th, there's going to be some living history going on. I want to say the Rockbridge Artillery is going to be doing some demonstrations. On August 9th, the anniversary of the battle, Sunday, August 9th, myself and fellow historian Brad Forbush, who is the expert on the 13th Massachusetts, we're going to be leading a real-time tour of Cedar Mountain.
Oh,
so
that's
we're going
awesome.
to start about 5 o'clock, go to various points on the battlefield with whoever shows up, and we're going to talk to our guests there about what's happening at that spot at that moment. And we expect the tour to last about 3.5 hours.
That's enticing.
I will push out flyers once the state park pushes it to their websites. But 5 o'clock, August 9th, Sunday, August 9th, be at the Crittenden Gate at 5 o'clock and hear some great stories.
I'm going to be there for that then. I don't have any plans August 8th, August 9th. I don't think so.
If you have to work, you look a little sick right now. Just a little. You get a cold coming on. You're not William Warren. You can show up.
No. Okay, cool. I like to hear that. Mike, I'm so glad. Again, a year in the making, we finally sat down to tackle this, and this was everything I thought it was going to be. And I just absolutely appreciate the time you take to study this battle and bring us, again, that humanizing aspect.
Hey, Tyler.
Yep.
Hey, Mike.
Yep.
If somebody were to take away only one thing about Cedar Mountain, what should it be?
One thing. Nathaniel Banks can be aggressive. And Stonewall Jackson maybe doesn't have good days.
Cool. Yeah.
And real briefly again, we heard dogs tonight.
Yep.
My research has led me to 5 dogs by name that are on the battlefield. And I've got images of 3 of them.
Oh, cool.
And a matter of fact, the park on October 3rd, here's another plug. October 3rd, they're going to be sponsoring Bark in the Park.
Oh, cool.
So bring your dogs out Saturday, October 3rd.
I got a barker. She's probably ready to get out. Yeah.
All right.
Very cool. But again, Mike, Anthony,
I think the takeaway, the thing no one would think about would be Banks being aggressive.
Banks being aggressive. I like that. Yeah, I'll leave the Stonewall Jackson part out, but I like the Banks part.
Who?
Leave that out. Folks, thank you guys again so much if you tuned in live today. If you didn't catch us live and you're listening later, also thank you. Again, if you want to catch us later, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we're here on Facebook, but we're also on History Fix. And again, I put that little QR code up, but just for your viewing pleasure, one more time, if you want to get a 7-day free trial, if you scan that code and that'll take you to where you need to go, you'll be able to watch for 7 days and see if you really like this. 7 days for Jackson weren't so good, but 7 days for you might be. So we'll see how that works.
Good,
Folks,
good.
thank you all again so much, and we will see you guys on the next one.